record on this. All right, it's Sunday night, February 5. Welcome to Giving University Dan Veronica class. This is class 4. And I'm always amazed at how quickly these classes go. Because when we started, it's 7 classes, and that seems like way off in the future. And before you know it, you're on class 4, and then you got to start looking at, oh, I got to find a nonprofit and got to get serious about this stuff. And if you're like me and wait till the last minute, you don't want to do that. And you want to be a little more like Veronica. She's way ahead of the game and turns in her stuff super early. I even have nightmares about college still, about the classes, where I showed up twice, and one of them was the last class, and it was the finals. And so I'm sure none of you ever experienced anything like that, but I sometimes go back to the future of my youth. So anyway, welcome. Any questions on anything so far? You guys are doing really well overall.
Yes. Well, generally speaking, we're trying to grab the, to be able to run analysis on the most recent available 990 form with any NGO we're dealing with, right? So if I go on like the IRS website or our, what's the name of that?
GuideStar?
Yeah, so if we're on GuideStar and they show us as recently as 2020 or 2019, is that still feasible for being able to submit a review against? Or would,
whatever their latest is, it's usually good.
Okay.
Especially
cool.
If they score well.
All right. I was just concerned if we needed to specifically grab like the recent, previous calendar years or anything within a 2-year window or whatever, if that was a criteria we needed or not.
Yeah, the only difference might be if you're trying to do a 990 easy. I sent out another form tonight.
Yeah.
But you got to chase down more information from the nonprofit. So in that case, you got to get the last year's.
Right. So if we,
it wouldn't be last year's, it'd be 2020.
Yeah, fine. But for me, who had sent one in with as recently as 2019, I wasn't sure if that was still considered viable, or if we needed to do follow-ups directly with its NGO to be able to ask after anything more recently or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Does that mean is there usually like a follow-up to try and make an in-person appointment with our NGO to try and follow up on them in order to get the grant pushed through? Because as far as I've just behaved is I just grabbed their 990 off of GuideStar and then just submitted a review, passed it off to you, and you forward it over to what's her name, Beth.
Yeah, you don't have to visit the nonprofit. It's not a requirement. Okay. We ask you if you can to do it. It's fun if you take them a check. That's kind of fun to do.
Sure.
And if you can establish some kind of relationship, that's always exciting. But no, we don't require you have to go there.
Okay. And then last question. I feel like I've been just hitting all the business points here. Right. Does that mean I need to have a follow-up review with Beth to go over my submittals? Or how does that work after I've submitted everything?
Check with her like 3 weeks after you submitted.
Okay. And I submitted it to you guys like a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, just check with her in like next week.
And her email, did you send it in the group message email already? I thought I grabbed it, but
it's BEF Beth K.
BETH?
BETHK.
BETHK at givinguniversity.org?
Yeah.
Okay, then I did grab it already. Good.
And usually I push it to her also.
Okay. And then next week I'll reach out to her. Thank you.
Sweet. All right, Veronica, you ready to rock and roll?
Of course. Okay, so we've received 3 Poverty Inc. questionnaires. Just want to see where everyone's at. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have the link. Any questions on that?
Who are the 3 you received from, just to make sure I passed it along your way?
Yep, the Fishers, and I also got from Liesel.
Okay, well, I do have mine as well. I thought I sent that off in the same package where I sent in my 990 analysis forms back and resend it.
Okay, if you have it, let me just give you credit for that.
Okay.
Did you send it over to Dan and Beth?
I sent it to Dan, but Dan forwarded it to Beth, or should have.
I did the same. I sent it to Dan as well, James McConchy.
Who was that? James?
Yeah, James.
Okay, let me just,
You probably got more answers right than I did. But it's submitted separately.
I completed it, but I was told in the Wednesday class we didn't need to turn it in. So I can turn it in. So who do I send it to?
send it to Beth.
Okay,
Was that
I'll do that.
Rhonda?
Rondi. Yeah, I'll send it right now.
Dan, do you want to see those? The poverty Inc. questionnaires?
No, it's good. If you get them to Beth and Veronica, that's fine.
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments or questions about Poverty Inc? You guys think it's pretty right on, or is it a little off? Any thoughts? Apparently not.
We thought it was phenomenal. We thought we're encouraging everybody we talk to watch it. It's very powerful and all encompassing. Gives a big picture of what is going on. So yeah,
Super,
that was good.
super.
Yeah, I think we really enjoyed it as well. It was really insightful. It was yeah, it's hard because I think it just shed light on how many systems are kind of negatively impacting, whether it is those in countries that have been historically under-resourced. And oftentimes like you try to work on one thing and it sort of reveals a challenge or a shortcoming in another area. And so that's it just shows that it's really hard, but it did shed light on one area that maybe we thought was more effective than it actually is. So that was helpful.
Nice. Okay, let me go ahead and shift gears here. Dan, if you want to let Casey in. And then we have about 4 that are missing. You can just monitor those. Okay, all right, I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you guys see that? Perfect.
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and start. Section 7, we're going to focus on poverty. And actually, this is a really good topic here. I'm going to go ahead and start with the. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so out of the 6 billion people living back in 1999, how many lived on less than $1.90 a day? And this is worldwide, poverty worldwide. And then second question is, of the 7.3 billion living in 2015, how many lived in $1.90 a day? So the answer to number 1 is 28%. Second question is less than 10%. And so what do you guys think? Do you think the numbers are getting worse? According to 67% of Americans say they do, according to the Barna survey.
67% of Americans think it's getting worse. Is that what that means?
Yep, according to the Barna survey.
But this data says it's getting better.
It's getting worse.
I think this is an incomplete metric because you got how many are living on $1.90 a day is fine, but how is the cost of living and inflation adjusted against that? Like, you gotta. It's one thing to be able to have a metric of regular income, but how are the cost of living for each of these areas affected in tandem? So like $1.90 is not the same in 2015 as it was in 99. So like, I don't know, there's not enough data to make a conclusion from.
We're going to continue on to the next slide and then we'll talk about that one. So according to poverty in Africa, of 1 billion people living in a sub-Saharan Africa, what percentage do you think live in less, $1.25 a day? What do you guys think? What percentage?
80.
25.
50.
41%.
I was telling myself 45%. Dang, I was.
Yeah. So compared to the rest of the world, the poverty issue is much more severe. So if we focus poverty in children, how many children died last year from preventable causes? And this is children under 5. And then we're going to look at how does this compare to 1990? And then we're going to look at the top 5 preventable causes. So the answer to number 1 is 4.1 million children died last year from preventable causes. Second question is 5 times higher. And then the top 5 are pneumonia, birth complications, newborn infection, diarrhea, and malaria.
Yeah, Veronica, the number in 1990 was 5 times higher. So it's improved by 5 times. It was way higher in 1990.
Right.
20, maybe like 20 million. But this is a kind of an astounding number.
Yeah.
All of us are bombarded with news all the time about COVID, about this, about that, and about all kinds of things, but you never hear about the number of kids dying from diseases. I mean, you don't hear much about this astounding number of kids that are dying from these diseases. And it's probably because we get only US news for one thing, but it's a very high number. But the good news is it's getting better.
Now we're going to focus poverty in America. So of people in the US over 25 years old, what group of people are most likely to live before the poverty level? And what do you guys think about this one?
The elderly.
Anyone else?
Don't show the answer yet.
Yeah, anyone else?
I'm gonna make you guys work for this one. Somebody said elderly, right?
Really, yeah.
Any other guesses out there? There's got to be some.
I would say that the elderly mostly are on some sort of assistance. So I'd say it's probably the younger group, 25 to 35.
What about veterans?
I was going to say veterans, but I was going to say, generally speaking, people 25 to 30 that have a history of drug abuse would probably be the most likely, whether that's veteran or otherwise.
Those are good feedback. It's actually those without a high school diploma, 26.3%. So we're going to discuss how poverty in the United States differs from poverty in poor countries. This is a great discussion to kind of talk through. What do you guys think?
How
How
about
it's
the
a
Williams?
difference? Go
How
ahead.
about the Williams? The Williams, you got 4 people there, right? 5 people. So why don't you give us a little input on this one?
Discuss how poverty in the United States differs from poverty in poor countries. Well, there's certainly on average a higher standard of living in the United States. Whereas like the statistic from sub-Saharan Africa talked about, I think it was like $1.25 in US dollars, and what percentage of people subsist on below that or at that. And I think it was what, like 41% or almost half the population. Whereas in the United States, I mean, if we just take this last statistic, you could say it's like tied to education, or the lack of education that has the biggest is the biggest determining factor on poverty level. But where in sub-Saharan Africa, that might not even be a resource that is common or is even provided to people, right? There is not the ability to maybe get an education to raise above poverty. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you. We just like the United States provides more like opportunities like education.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you guys for participating.
I would have to, my input on that is the difference is that in the United States, there's more programs offered to people in poverty compared to poorer countries. Poorer countries do not have the resources to provide for those low income or in poverty compared to the United States.
Yeah, who was that? Who's talking?
Geo.
I'm sorry, I can't see everyone. Actually, yes, that's the US has many safety nets. There's a lot of resources here that are available. All right, so let's look at this one. So experts estimate it would cost billions a year to end world hunger. And then how much do Americans spend on weight loss programs or products? And then how much do Americans spend on obesity-related healthcare? These numbers are pretty crazy. It's 44% on the first question. Second is 62 billion people spend on weight loss products, surgeries, and etc. And 190 billion on obesity-related healthcare. What do you guys think about these numbers?
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money for sure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like access to healthy food and how just the inequities of fast food industry, and cheap food is typically not the healthiest, and how that impacts obesity, and thus the disparities in healthcare and health prosperity. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah. Okay, so is there a fixed amount of wealth in the world? What do you guys think?
No.
Can you explain that question a little more? I don't think I understand it.
Dan, can you look at those chats? I'm not monitoring those chats if people are asking questions.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I'm not really monitoring in case someone wants to participate, I don't want to not call on you.
There's no direct chats for the
Okay, just want to make sure.
for this stuff.
Okay. So the answer is no. So remember, whenever you guys see this pencil, if you guys have the homework printed out, you guys can fill in the blanks there.
Could I follow up the last question and ask the same thing? Can you explain what you mean by a fixed amount of wealth in the world?
Yeah, we're going to go through it right now, Rhonda.
Oh,
yeah. So the question was, is there a fixed amount of wealth in the world? So, and I'm just going to drop these down here. So if an area has no farms and then later has farms, there's new wealth. So if you buy a piece of clothing for $1 and sell it for $5, there's new wealth. So if a bank or a credit card loans you money, there's new wealth if you produce something from it, if you make something. So these are kind of the questions that we came up with.
Does that make sense to you? But was it Bandy?
Rondi?
Randy? Did that make sense to you?
I think she's on mute.
Oh, okay. Or anybody, everybody else? Anybody
I'm
else?
rereading it right now. Thank you.
Okay.
All good.
Okay, so the question is, are things getting better or worse? And it's getting better. So according to the GWP, the sum of all goods and service produced worldwide, and I'll just name a couple here. In 1900, it was 1.1 trillion. 1975, it was 15 trillion. And then in 2014, it was 78 trillion. So poor countries are growing faster than richer countries.
Okay, does everybody go back, Veronica? Does everybody understand this? I think the Williams, you have some kids in there, right? Some of your older kids. Do you guys know what that means? What we're sharing here?
Do you know? So yeah, I was thinking on the prior slide about gross domestic product and the idea of like, is wealth fixed or is it more dynamic? And you know, someone asked like, what do we mean by wealth? And what popped into my head was basically gross domestic product, right? Which I think would be gross world product. Here, have you heard that term? Gross
'cause
domestic
it's like
product?
everything that's been produced
Mhm.
in like a country, and then you divide it by like how many people there are, I think.
And Blake, it's Blake, right?
Yeah.
I like the word you use, dynamic. It speaks to growth, getting larger, multiplying, things like that. But it's a
Yep.
little bit of I'm not sure people understand gross national product and gross world product. I just want to make sure at least we touch on it just a little bit. It's what the value of everything is. And our point is the value of everything's growing per person. And then the last statement on their poorer countries are growing at a more rapid rate than rich countries. The reason is the baseline's a lot smaller. It's easier to multiply, you know, when it's a poor country. But I think our point is it's getting better. And a lot of times we think everything's getting worse because all we hear is bad news all the time. And I think it kind of shapes our thinking. And a lot of times we don't hear, you know, that there's a lot of things getting better. And does that make sense to you guys? Does everybody just think everything's getting better all the time?
I've thought a lot about this because you look at things like you know, the statistic about the 1990s, things like access to healthcare have vastly increased over the last, I mean, call it 10, 50, 100 years, which is improving people's lifespans. Access to food is increasing as well. But at the same time, the wealth gap is increasing quite a bit. And I mean, it's difficult to say. Again, somebody made the point about standard of living. Everybody is living much better now than the world was living 100 years ago or 200 years ago. But there are a lot of people that are you know, similar percentages of people who are living below the poverty line or in, you know, dire situations. And yet there is massive amounts of wealth on the other end of the spectrum that is fueling machines like the poverty machine that we were talking about from the video, and others that are just making those gaps larger and larger, and it being harder and harder for those who are below certain levels to reach what most people would consider to be a comfortable level of you know, living.
Okie dokie. You can keep going, Veronica. I didn't mean to slow us down, but I want to make sure everybody understands the point we're making is a lot of things are getting better. And a lot of times it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I was just going to add quickly, sorry, not to bog us down, like the way I often hear it described of like people say, there's no better time in the history of the world to be born or to be alive right now. Right. And so they talk about, you know, as you talked about the advances in healthcare and technology, and access to those services, just kind of globally and generally. And so I think you can agree with that, while at the same time, I think like the idea of, or the reality of wealth inequality is where people, and rightly so, like focus on like, yes, but like, look at all this inequality we have with wealth of like the top 1% or 0.1% or whatever it is, of like, it could be more equitable, right? So I think both things can be true. Maybe that's as an idea.
Yeah, very. Just the fact we can do a class like this means things have gotten better at, in doing a class, to be honest with you. We do a class with people from all over the country. We couldn't have done that 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And so a lot of times I just want to, because I'm a negative person a little bit by just how I'm wired, how I'm made. But this is good for me to see and teach, because there are some things that are getting better. And sometimes we're just getting shelled all the time with how everything's always getting worse. Anyway, good comments. Thanks, you guys. And yeah,
thank you. We like it when the class participates. It makes it easier versus just talking. All right, so Giving Tuesday. So this is an opportunity where, people are more motivated to donate. Usually this Giving Tuesday is in around November. So there's a lot of people who donate to nonprofits.
It's the first Tuesday after
Thanksgiving, isn't it?
After, is it Black Friday?
Oh, Black Friday, yeah.
And Black Friday is usually the biggest day we spend money. And this was started, I think, 10 or 15 years ago, and it's just trying to piggyback on the fact that people are letting go of big sums of money because of Black Friday, and just trying to piggyback on, people are currently more motivated to give than maybe any other time in history. And so it piggybacks on that whole, just the whole event, the weekend, the shopping mode everybody goes into to spend money. Did everybody know that everybody's more motivated to give now? Or did anybody think that?
I didn't think that.
I remember when I started the class, I said my goal is to get everybody to improve their generosity by 10%. No matter where you're at on the generosity scale. But yeah, it's good to know that, it's good to see this and realize, there's a lot of people in our country that are very generous, actually.
Yeah, and actually, I just wanted to piggyback off of that, Dan. So, you guys are doing your organization review on a local charity. So that's an opportunity where you guys can actually do some donations, do some, Dan's always talking about a high five, $5 a month, kind of to start. And it kind of encourages the giving part. If you do, obviously, if you can do more than $5, it's great, but it's an opportunity where we can start, small and work your way up. You want to take it from here, Dan?
Sure, I'll take it for a while.
Okay.
Let's see, you have to unshare though. So we're going to kind of take a look at, we're taking a look at poverty. That's really what we're doing. You guys can see my slide, correct? I think you can anyway. Everybody see that?
There's
like a
can?
black line, Dan, on the slide.
yeah, you may have to stop sharing and reshare. I don't know if that'll solve it for you.
It's my little thingy that says I'm sharing stuff. Let me try one more time. Sorry. Yeah, let me see if I can move it over here. Okay, now it should be gone. So why can't poor people just start working? I know a lot of times my attitude is a little bit like that. It's not a very good attitude. And so let's take a look at some reasons. One is a lot of times they're just trying to focus on staying alive. And when we're talking $1.90 for the poor in Africa, basically they're just surviving. When I was driving around today, I knew we're doing class tonight, and I go, how do people with so little make life happen? They're just trying to survive. They're trying to eat. And so that's just what's going on. Their government is corrupt. There's a lot of corruption in the world. There's a lot of governments that take some of the money that people donate and they steal it, and it doesn't get to the people that it's supposed to go to. They don't know how to get started. Sometimes they've been so traumatized and so beat down in life that they become scared, and they really just don't know how to get going. If they're in certain places of Africa, they have no raw materials to work with. And so I guess one of the questions is, can the poor escape from the trap of being poor? And yes, they can, at least to a certain extent. There's more safe drinking water now than there's ever been. So that's one less hurdle. The improvement in drinking water has been really pretty good in the last 15 years. And so just that alone means you can, instead of worrying about your next drink of water, you can start worrying about some other things. There's more education in healthcare. There's more education in how to start up and be an entrepreneur. There's seed money for businesses, little businesses. We're going to see that. It's one of my favorite organizations. It's called Kiva, and it's an extraordinarily good organization on helping people. Government transparency, limiting foreign aid. And in some countries, there's a culture of laziness. And, that's probably not politically correct to say, but it's one of the things that goes on. And so in some cultures, you just have to kind of work at overcoming that. So what are some of the ways to end poverty? Probably the best way is economic growth, making a bigger pie, making more farms, making more things happen, making an environment where people can work and they are able to, for the money they make, they're able to keep and spend and decide how they spend their own money. And so that's called economic growth. And so the question is, how do you grow an economy? One way is with seed money and some training. And so we'll do a little illustration of some rabbits. So what if you gave a third world entrepreneur 2 rabbits? He would raise rabbits, feed his family, and have a surplus to sell. I was just in Lebanon about 6 weeks ago, and one of our nonprofits we stopped at would consider giving people a cow to develop and to raise and to have milk and to butcher and have beef and all that. But what they found after a while is if they gave people 3 really large rabbits, they actually got more food out of the rabbits than they did out of the cow. And so this is actually, really a real world way of people lifting themselves by bootstraps. I was in an area of Lebanon where the Syrian refugees lived, and most of them were farmers, and most of them are excellent farmers from Syria. And they're devastated because they're in a war. They have a corrupt government. The government steals their kids and puts them in the military, and so they're refugees in Lebanon. And so the nonprofit we were visiting was trying to help them raise them up and take advantage of their skills as farmers. And so this was one area where they were able to make a difference. But if you gave another entrepreneur carrot seeds, he would grow carrots, feed his family, and sell carrots to the rabbit farmer. So you're kind of starting a little community here. There's some proverbs for discussion. He who is generous will be blessed, for he gives some of his food to the poor. And whoever gives to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to poverty will be cursed. And so we all have an obligation to open our eyes to poverty and to help and to be generous and to help fund and help give and help participating in the activities that help bring poverty down and help people in poverty. Microeconomic lending, the definition is lending small amounts of money to train entrepreneurs to help them start businesses. And most successful ones use co-ops, groups of people that all must pay back in a lump sum and therefore support each other. And we're going to take a look at kiva.org. And they have a very high payback rate. So let me go to the website a little bit. Any questions? I kind of flew through some of that kind of quickly, actually. It's a big subject. And there's a lot to it. But let me see what I got. Let me show you. I'm going to show you their video. We're going to start there with their video. So hang on just a second while I share my screen again. And I try to do it correctly. And we're on screen 2.
One spark can change the world.
You guys can hear that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to ask, I just have to make sure.
No matter who you are or where you're from. The year is 2005, and Elizabeth, a widow and mother in Uganda, needs a loan to grow her business. Each of these green sparks of light represent a $25 loan from Sandra and 4 other people who believe in Elizabeth. Sandra is among the first lenders to back someone's dream on kiva.org, and Elizabeth is one of the first borrowers to successfully repay the people who believed in her. Watch along as more people become Kiva lenders, backing the dreams of borrowers around the world. This animation shows 10 years of Kiva's lending activity and impact. In 2006, Kiva ignites into a global phenomenon. With more than 2 billion people around the world living in poverty, lenders embrace the chance to spark change. Roughly 75% of Kiva loans are to women. Women such as Isadora in Bolivia are more likely to use their income to grow their businesses, increase crops, and send their kids to school. Her loan was crowdfunded by 45 lenders, people including Deborah in California. After Deborah was repaid, she relent the same $25 to another borrower, like Gina in the Philippines. By the end of 2009, more than $100 million in loans are funded, and Kiva continues to crowdfund innovation by pushing the boundaries of financial inclusion. Education loans marked in yellow help students, including Miriam in Kyrgyzstan, finance her education, vastly increasing her lifetime earning potential. Her dream was backed by 41 people like you. By 2012, lenders have funded thousands of loans in conflict-affected regions to people such as Amadou in Mali, where access to capital is key to rebuilding. Alice in Uganda and other borrowers are able to take out green loans through Kiva. And by 2013, lenders have funded thousands of green loans for organic agriculture, clean cook stoves, and solar lights. Kiva is both a global and local phenomenon. Watch as people in the US, Kenya, and Mongolia lend to others in their own communities. And after 10 years with the help from hundreds of field partners, these 1.8 million borrowers in over 80 countries have a repayment rate of 97%, allowing 1.4 million people like you to relend that money again and again. And all of this change is being made one person, one loan at a time. It's been 10 years, and Kiva is still all about supporting each other as a connected global family. By working together, each of us can be the spark that changes the world. At kiva.org.
Okay, raise your hand if you've heard of Kiva before. Liesl has, anybody else?
Well, I heard of other micro lending things, but not Kiva necessarily.
Eva, okay. And who have you heard of? Or do you remember their name?
No, I was down in Central America in 2003, and some of the most successful NGO things that were going on down there was micro lending programs, and I'm glad to see that's really blossomed over the years. So I don't know specific names, but yeah, it's a good concept.
Yep,
Guatemala, it's an organization called Farms that was lending money, and they actually did it in Cambodia too. So that was the idea, to lend money to people so they can start their own business, micro business.
So I have a question. How do people like in these remote villages find out about Kiva? And then how do they actually get the money to them? Because a lot of these people maybe are in smaller places that don't have access to computers or phones. So how does this actually work out?
I'm not exactly sure how they find them. I know they screen them and they find them. Probably something you'd have to check on the Kiva website to, actually, no, I don't know exactly how they do it, but they do it. It's not a very good answer, but it's the honest answer.
When I was at Honduras, they were at the markets, and like in San Pedro Sula, the people come in from the countryside into the markets in the cities, and they have places set up there, and they're doing the micro lending, and once people find it out, the communications spreads pretty fast, a lot faster than you think. They're not as isolated as everybody thinks everybody is.
Right. No, everybody has a cell phone these days in a lot of places too. See, this is my account. I have $25 I need to get loaned out. But you can see if you go to the site, there's all kinds of causes. So whatever you like, whatever you think the problems are, whatever you think you can help fix, there's just some unique ways to do it. This is Alina, and she's doing kava supplies. So you can learn more about that. And that helps her get whatever kava is. So she can make whatever she makes. Maybe it's coffee or something. And then she repays the loan and she gets ahead because she makes progress in her little business. But there's people all over the place. Here's a lady, Charito. And somebody's loaned her the full amount. She needed $475 to buy more boxes of fish to sell. So that gave her a little bump to buy more fish. But you can see there's a little progress thing here. You get started. I think you can invest with as little as $50. Maybe it's $25. And the repayment rate is really, really good. It's at 96%. And it's a loan, not a donation. So your money gets used, like if you put in $100, your money will just always be there for 10 years, 15 years, where you're just recycling the money that you loan people. They've loaned over 1.6 billion. That's a lot of money. I think they're the biggest, maybe somebody's bigger. They have 77 countries and 1.9 million lenders. I think my point a little bit is this, is make this a little part of your homework, is just to look at this site, because it's, if you want to talk about improving generosity, this is a great way to do it. And you go here and you can poke around on their website.
I'm curious if anyone's done like the guide star check on Kiva. Like, do they get top scores in all the areas?
I don't know.
I've
never checked, to be honest with you.
It's quite an operation, and that must take some, quite a bit to make it work. So I wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
Is it a nonprofit?
Yeah, I was curious if it was actually 501c3.
It's not org, which usually means it is.
Yeah.
But if you're big on the US, there's Kiva US. This lady's doing mushrooms. Shelby's a female entrepreneur. This lady's got a woodland farm, Katie and Jamie. So whatever your thing is, there's just all kinds of stuff here. If you're into health, technology. This lady, Lara, Yara, maybe is how you say it. She's working on 75 medical clinics in Kenya. So there's some bigger stuff here too. And we do have there's lending teams. So an interesting part of their website is the teams, because Christians always say they're the most generous, and they are in the top slot here. However, it's kind of interesting because atheists are pretty close. And so this month, let's go back to last month, January. You can see the Christian group. There's a group, there are teams or groups, or what do you want to call them, loaned 518,000. There's a group of atheists that did 433. There's a group called Stuff You Should Know, Nerd Fighters, Climate Pilots, Team Canada. So whatever your thing is, it's kind of fun because you can get yourself in a team to help do stuff. And we have a Giving University team, and it would be nice if we got more people in it. But you can see we have 16 members. It's honestly, it's pretty pathetic for all the classes we taught that we only have 16. So if a couple of you want to join, it'd be awesome. But we have team members that have made loans. It looks like we've made 415 loans. We have 16 members. And we have a captain, Mark Kerr, in Houston, Texas. And so anyway, there's a lot that can happen. It's a lot of loans. That's actually a good amount of loans. But Veronica, a lot of this came from Danny's family. You remember Danny?
Yes.
Danny died of COVID in our company, and his family became a big part of our Kiva, our lending team, and they did a lot of these loans here. But you can see they're all over the world. They're Colombia, Congo, Albania, Vietnam, Colombia, Vietnam. It looks like they like Vietnam a little bit. And so there's just all kinds of things they did. The loan was fully funded, and here's some more. They give you some ideas if one of yours is already full. But anyway, there's a lot of good stuff there.
One more question about this. What is typically the turnaround time that you get paid, and do they notify you when you've received your loan so that you can invest it in another person?
They're super good about that. The turnaround time is 6 months to 2 years or something like that. And then they notify you through email that your $50 got repaid. Can you reloan it? Like I have a little bit of money there that needs to be reloaned, and I haven't done it yet. But they do notify you when you can reloan your money. I think you can get your money back too if you want it back. But they're really good. They got a really good, operationally, they do a really good job.
Can I say something about, at least with my experience with farms? Like for example, in Cambodia, I remember the ideal amount of loaning money to the poor people who was trying to start a business was max of $200. One of the biggest problems that we have there is a lot of people, when they got the loan, they were thinking about buying chickens or dogs or fish or something. And a lot of people, when they have like economic situations like health or whatever, they ending using the money for going to the doctor or buying school uniforms or books. In the end, they didn't spend the money in the business, they didn't use the money for the business, so they actually just ending paying like a debt more than investing that money as a business. I don't want to sound negative, it's just like the reality of what happened in Cambodia with this kind of like loaning money to people.
Yeah, now let me push back a little bit. Remember, their payback rate is 96%. And so I got Cambodia on the screen here, and what I'd like you to do this week is maybe take a look at some of these and see what you think. I'm not saying you should loan money or anything like that, but if Cambodia has a bad repayment rate, it would drag down the repayment rate of the whole, of everything. And so I think they're very careful on who they loan money to. This lady Thai, she needs $1,000 to restock her store so she can sell stuff. And what I heard you saying is your experience a little bit is if she got $1,000, she would spend it on living expenses and not really what it was supposed to go to. Is that what your experience was?
Specifically with poor people who didn't have a business, but they want to, like, in their mind was, let's start a business or doing something. And with people, when they don't have experience on how to do a business, it's more difficult. So they need more training, supervising how they doing with their business, more than just giving the money without having any help, extra help for the people.
Yep. Well, maybe a good test for you would be for you to loan a $25 loan or something like that, and see how it works. I mean, see if they do what they say they're going to do. Because these pictures I'm showing you, these aren't rich people. These are, these are probably a little better than living on the streets. But and there are different reasons. Like Samek wants a loan to finish his restroom at his house. Sophia wants a loan to build a fence around her house, maybe for security. Two people want fences. So it doesn't always have to be a business. If you want to just
oh, sorry, Daniel. I was going to say, I picked up on the video from the website. I think one of them talked about student loans, which I thought was really cool. Right. So they like that idea of wealth of, money is the most obvious thing, but it could be education. It could be a fence. It could be other resources. I thought that was cool.
Yep. Education. I think that's a big category for them, actually. These aren't really education, so the site's not perfect. Oh, here's a big category here. Education. So Marifat is in I'm not sure what country. Muhammad. He wants to go to a university. Palestine. There's probably a lot more you can see there. There is. There's 2 more pages. But here you can see a couple of some people trying to get loans for school. So if you're big into education, here's a girl in Houston needs some help. It's a good way to help people, and it's a good way to make difference. Good way to help them keep lifting themselves out of poverty. Show you one more video from Kiva. Can you guys hear that okay?
Yes.
Ang akong pangita, pangisda, Sulod na ron sa 20 ka tuig ang akong pagpanginabuhi. Bason laman nga buligan pud mi sa Ginoo nga sa among pagpanginabuhi ug madamlag magtuo bisan mo sa may kalisod.
Hi, I'm Eileen.
Ako si Flor Didisa.
Negosyo na ko karon is ang panagat. Kuhaan karon naka-loan ko og 20,000, ipalit na ko pud og dugang nga gamit sa mga panagat like sa pukot o pasol. Ganon, dako kayo ikatabang sa ako ang anak nga nag-eskwela diha sa private school.
Paningo agin sa among pagpangabuhi nga ang gusto niya nga ang amon agyan sa uli hindi maagyan sa among kabataan sa subong. Ang sa subong tatlo na ang amon nga kaugaling nga pambot kag 5 ka klase sang panagat. Tungod kay sang una nang ang amon nga nagapabuso lang akon bana kag sa subong may taho kami nga 5 ka taho nga nagaupol sa amon panagat. Sa ako inapabugay sa taho no nang kinalanggali sa pagpangabuhi updad na gid sa pagpatingwa kag kapisan.
O nagpasalamat ko sa Kiba nga nakapa-improve sa among pamilya.
So it's a good way if you can start small, and it's a good way to, help making a difference in, I think people that are trying to lift themselves out. And what I like about Kiva is I'm sure they screen the people because of their success rate. They're doing a good job because that's a really high success rate of 96%. And so, it gives you the ability to be a worldwide generous person is by doing a Kiva loan. And it can be small. I mean, I think the increments are $25. Any questions?
I think this is a great program. I think it's the whole idea is fantastic. I just went ahead and popped up there the 990 form just to give people sort of perspective that the even really what are really good programs may not score as well on our score sheets as one thing. So they're like a $38 million company. Their administrative costs were like 16%. Their fundraise was 9%, but they have 15 people making over 170 grand, and the CEO makes $797,000 a year. So that's just a little bit interesting. I know I looked up the Red Cross the other day too, and part thing you have to put in perspective, you're in these super global companies, you have to have people run them that are competing for other, corporate global jobs. So even though they may have high incomes, it may be necessary to get people to run these giant things too. So I just thought that would be interesting for everybody to know.
It is very good. Thank you. How much was their money in, or how much was how much money did they bring in last year?
38 million.
38 million. Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty modest size for a nonprofit. And that's a 2020 tax return?
That was 2020. They actually expanded quite a bit because they were on 19 million the year before. So they pretty much doubled.
Is 2020 their latest?
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Guide Star. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good input. Now, if you don't like the fact that there's that many people making that much money, then the challenge is to find, and there's probably somebody else that's doing loans. The administrative, the big amount on administration is probably just because of how this has to work. So it's just a high intensity. I mean, you need a lot of help, a lot of people figuring out, a lot of people making sure, you're giving good loans and you got good people that are getting the funding. But the challenge is if if one of you find a better organization, let us know. You have to look at their repayment rate. That's probably the main thing. But if there's something else out there that has really a good repayment rate, that'd be worth looking at. Thanks for looking that up, though.
Yeah, but like how many loans could be honored if the CEO wasn't making $700 and something thousand a year? That's the question that comes up for me. And all the other executives and employees that are making what is beyond a livable wage, and while working for an organization that is promoting such a useful idea. It's hard for me to match those two things morally, that they can be at peace with that with themselves.
We might have a family fight here though, because at the same time, I think the point that he made is like, these are people that are coming out of, we wouldn't balk at those numbers if it was a for-profit company. We would say, no, sure. I mean, we might, but we wouldn't, that is the reality of for-profit companies that are doing well. And so to say that someone, who runs a nonprofit shouldn't make the same amount as someone who runs a for-profit because of, the work that they're doing, I would love it if all of those were down. But again, as our friend there made the point, when you're competing for jobs, Edwin made the point, when you're competing for jobs and someone comes out and they are a high-performing individual, we want them to pick a nonprofit, right? Because then they're going to do better work for the world. And if they don't, because they can make more money elsewhere, then, we're losing someone who could be making the world a better place. So it's a systems problem, I think, more than it is a nonprofit payment problem.
I think one thing would help make a decision on something like this, if you were to research that CEO and see what his lifestyle was, is he taking, 60% of his income and putting it back into micro lending himself or into other charities, or is he living a lavish lifestyle? That would be a major difference in how you would interpret and evaluate them. Yeah.
And any of you can feel free to email them and ask questions. And you could ask, a good question is, if you want to do a little pushing on them, is saying, listen, I understand your CEO is compensated at this amount of money. But I have a hard time understanding how my $100 all goes to that lady in Thailand. Does 100% get to where it's supposed to, or how do they fund the rest of the organization? Because if all your money goes in and it's going to the loan, somehow they're financing the rest of their organization, and they may be doing it with their fundraising in a different category somewhere. And what they're showing you on their webpage is accurate, because that happens with organizations also.
Yeah,
anyway,
they're taking in all the money and then investing it. They're delaying the handoff. Maybe they're keeping the money, investing it, making a lot of profit, and then after a certain amount of time, then they pass it off as a loan.
It was about 5 million in administrative costs and 2.7 in fundraising that was on the 990.
Say that again, Edwin.
It's about 2.7 million in fundraising and about 5 million in administrative.
Yeah, the administrative, well, both those numbers are understandable, especially if the fundraising is basically to fund their staff. All the staff they have to make this work, and it allows the money that people loan to go 100% through to whoever's supposed to get it. Okay, here's my deal. See this cup, this GU cup? Isn't it a nice cup?
It is a nice
somebody, it's a great cup. If somebody finds an organization like Kiva that's pretty close to as good as Kiva with maybe a little more modest numbers, I'll give them one of these cups. These are $30 cups, and they're GU cups, and they're really nice. And I got a few extra. Okay, so that's my challenges, because that's the point of what we're doing and why we're doing this class. We're not doing this class so you can pass it. I mean, it's nice if you pass it, but it's to say, okay, I'm a GU alumni 2 months later. I like Kiva, but it seemed to violate some of the principles I learned in Giving University. What can I find that's out there that's better? And that might be the way to take a look at it. And I'm sure there's stuff out there, because one of you made a comment that they had problems in Thailand or Cambodia, and the people weren't using the money correctly. And so that's maybe the, you got both things going on. Anyway, that's a good point. I never really researched Kiva because I don't know. I just didn't. I can't do everything. So, but I'm glad one of you took a look. That's why we do the class, because we don't know everything, and we want you guys to help us. So you helped us. So somebody find a better one. That'd be a good challenge. Okay, we're almost done here, and we're good on time. Microeconomic lending, this is Kiva. They got a 96% payback. So this is a little bit of the, again, some of the screens you saw. And this is a little bit on how it works. And you can see make a loan, click lend to make a loan to the borrower of your choice. All Kiva loans are dispersed by our field partners who vet and work closely with each borrower. So you can maybe dig a little bit deeper into what they're saying there. And then here you can see all of the different categories. There's war zones. Sustainability is a big deal these days. Education's a big deal. Having a house or a shelter is a big deal, because that way you can sleep. So there's all kinds of good things going on in here. And then this was the Kiva teams. But I always appreciate the generous atheists, agnostics, and skeptics. I think it's a good challenge for Christians to really say, are we really more generous or not? It's pretty close. And then there's the GU. So if you get in there, you like it, maybe join the GU lending team, Kiva lending team. That'd be kind of fun. So anyway, that's that. So for next week, your assignments are find a better organization than Kiva, and you get a cup or a nice mug, and start working on your organizational reviews. I know some of you have turned them in, and if you want to do a presentation to the class, we could probably do some of those next week. Send your review scorecard into info. That's the same as Beth K. It's the same. She gets all of it. But you do make an oral presentation to the class, and we want you to keep it under 4 minutes, but just tell us about your organization. And if you're stuck, anybody stuck on finding something? Aaron, I think you turned in some. Eric, you're finding stuff?
Yeah, I'm still working on mine.
Okay, Anna, you finding stuff?
Yeah, I already have my organization. I just want to go and check it out in person. So, but I've already run all my numbers and stuff.
Nice, awesome. Antoinette, you found anything? You working on it?
Yes, I love mine. I already sent it in. It's called the Women's Bean Project, and it's really awesome.
Sweet, nice job, thank you. Edwin and Janine, you guys doing good?
Yeah, we Janine, or you can tell her.
Well, yeah, I have mine. Actually, I'm about ready to send it in. I'm waiting for a call back to get some other details. I want to make sure I have them ironed out. So you guys should be getting it next week, early next week.
But she went and had an interview with the director, and I've got a interview on Tuesday with the executive director of the Turlock Gospel Mission. So yeah, we're on track.
Awesome. The Williams, how many of you are in the class? Is it 4 or 5? I see 4.
4 and a dog.
4 and a dog. There you go. And you guys making some progress?
Some of us are a little behind and some of us are on it.
Yeah, so actually a follow-up question with that, Daniel. You saw my note, and that we think we've identified some organizations. A couple of them, it looked like, just had a 990 EZ Head Start. And I was just curious, so what, like, is that up to the organization in terms of what they want to file based on like their total revenue? Are there any hard and fast rules around that?
The easy forms are usually because they're newer and smaller.
Yeah.
But I emailed out a form today you can use if they have an easy 990.
Yep.
But you have to go chase down profit and loss statements from them is I think the main thing.
Okay, I saw that, and I've reached out. So
okay.
Yeah, I think we're
sounds good. We're donating the money so we can ask, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Raymond, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. I found one organization, but I want to get up to 3 and kind of like choose the best one out of the bunch and go from there.
Nice. Rondi?
Yes, my form is completed, so I will email it in tonight.
Oh, wow, sweet. Liesel? Did I say it right, Liesel? I always have trouble.
You sure did. Thanks for getting it right. Yeah.
Well, it's just because I was lucky.
I am highly indecisive, so
okay.
still considering.
Okay, you got plenty of time.
Yeah,
And-
similarly. Yeah, need to dig in a little bit.
Okay, super. Today, I think I said that right. You're a little, your audio is a little delayed.
So I have 2. One that I think they need a lot of help, so I will try to submit that one. And the other one, they get like 17 million or 18 million a year, so I think they don't need that much, the $500, but I will try to see if I can submit both.
Okay, you can do that. Grant and Melina?
Yeah, we're looking around, still trying to find the best one.
And are you paying Melina to do yours or you're doing yours?
Yeah, he pays pretty well, so I'm like doing it for him. Kidding.
No, yeah, since she was gone that week that we discussed the 990, so I was trying to teach her how to do that one.
Oh, sweet. Sweet. Do you have any questions, Melina?
Not right now, but if I do, I will email you.
Whatever Grant's paying you, double it. Gio?
No, she's paying me.
Oh, well then double it.
Yeah. I'm teaching her, so she better be paying me.
Oh, gosh. There we go. Gio.
I already identified my organization, just working on the worksheet, and that's it.
And your dad went to Nigeria, right?
Correct.
Did he talk to you about any of it or say anything?
I talked to him briefly over the weekend. He said he did send me pictures while he was over there. He did enjoy it a lot and learned a lot.
Oh, would you send me some of the pictures? Send me the good ones.
Yeah, will do.
Send me the good ones.
I'll email some.
Okay. And Casey, how you doing?
I feel a lot like Diesel. I've got probably 6 or 7 that I'm interested in, but that's a great word, indecisive.
Okay.
Yeah, trying to narrow
Well,
it down.
You could turn them all in, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Miss Veronica, do you have any further comments or questions?
No, I like to hear that students want to go in person to see the organization. I think that gives them a better insight. You know, when you get a tour the facility and you meet with the program directors, it gives you more of an insight versus doing it, looking at the website and kind of doing it just manually. So I like to hear that you guys are going to go. So kudos to you guys.
Exactly.
I did have a quick question. So if we were to go and meet with the director, I think Edwin and Janine said that you guys are doing that. If we don't have any questions about their financials, is there anything else besides obviously the operations and what they do that you would suggest that we should look into and ask about?
Just ask them to give you a little tour.
Yeah.
Tell
What's
them,
the
ask-
impact? What's the impact they're that they're doing? You want to know what impact, and to me, I mean, I just like to, you get a better feeling, when you're there and you see the environment, you see exactly what funding or how they're currently being funded. You can ask those questions when you're there, but how are they making an impact into the community?
One thing that was interesting is I made a call on an executive director. I don't know him, and we have probably know people in common. And he probably was a little hesitant to take the call at first, but once I started talking to him and explained the whole concept of what was going on, now he's eager to meet with me. He's like really interested in what's going on. So, and that's going to make it easier to have a rapport and see how the whole thing works. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, once you kind of tell them you're doing, some research on their organization, they get they give you more insight really of the organization.
Super duper. So 2 other things is I sent you some stuff on Mexico. There's 2 trips, and Veronica is the leader in one of the trips. So is there any questions on what I sent you or we sent you on either one of the trips?
Yeah, I have several questions. Who would be the right person to maybe like email or have a quick phone call with someone about?
Which trip?
It was one of the trips to Mexico. Which one was it? Ooh.
There's the one that's to the orphanage and the ranch. And there's one that's a home build trip.
I think it was the home build trip, the one to Ensenada.
Yeah, they're both in that area, both trips.
I thought there was like one
the home
trip
build.
and then the other one had like 4 different trips listed on it, correct? Right.
Yeah,
I'm not
4
mistaken.
different weeks.
Yeah, they're different weeks. There's 4 different weeks for the home build.
Oh, so
Send me an email and I'll tell you who to contact to talk a little more about it, the home build.
Yeah,
I-
because we have kids in the kid class, so we have lots of like questions about all of that and COVID protocols.
Do you have kids in the kids class?
Yeah, we have 2 kids in the kids class, and we also have a 3rd kid who's
Okay.
not in the kids class. So
Okay. Well, on the home build, the kids are welcome to come and the kids have a great time. The 1 week, June 11th is sold out. We got 12 kids. And so the kids have a great time. It's such a great experience for them. But anyway, email you and email me and I'll give you the contact of who to talk to.
thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that?
I did really quick about the Chicago one you sent out today.
Sure.
What did you guys do on that trip?
That wasn't a trip. The Chicago one is one that GU does a lot of grants behind the scenes. The trips are one part of what we do. And then we also do grants to different things that go on. So that was one of the things we did, Mr. Bray is the owner, and he liked what the pastor was doing in Chicago, in the inner city. And so it was just a update on they've got the funding. I think they got $32 million, and they're going to build in the inner city a facility to help the kids out. And then he wants to do a school. We're working on getting a group of them to go through GU also. In Denver, we work with Cross Purpose, and we really like giving people this information, especially if they're kind of bootstrapping their way up. And so Cross Purpose, I think we've gotten about 40 students from Cross Purpose. And, we like it because we get to take them places and help them out. So that was what the thing in Chicago was.
Would you ever send a team to the Chicago location?
Possibly. That would be a service trip like we did San Francisco. We went to into the worst part of San Francisco, Mini Street, I think it's called. And we did that 3 times. And yeah, there's a possibility we can do it. We have to look at the security and the safety of where we go. And so we have to make sure if we take a group there, we're going to be okay. When we were in San Francisco, we were okay. And I never felt unsafe. But we try to be really careful because our goal isn't to get people messed up in a bad place. But if you think that would be a great idea, just send me an email and we'll start looking at it. The other trip in Mexico, the one Veronica's leading, I'm really excited about one part of it. The orphanage, the gentleman running the orphanage has 40 kids right now, and he's just adding 20. So he's got 60 kids. And they're aging out. He's been at it for about 15 years. They're aging out. By that, I mean, they're turning 18 and they can no longer stay at an orphanage. But the founder of that orphanage is now building a facility in the town to house 24 of them that are going to age out over the next couple of years. And so it gives them a bridge and kind of a safety net to adulthood. And so that's why I'm really excited about that. It's different than Chicago, but it's just really nice because the founder of the orphanage, he's just all in for those kids. It's 60 kids. So it's exciting to me. Antoine, you worked for Cross Purpose? Or did you go through a Cross Purpose?
No, I work for Cross Purpose.
Okay, so give us the 2-minute jazzy update on Cross Purpose.
Cross Purpose is a career development program that works with individuals to get them up to trade schools. So they'll go to CDLs, they'll go get their CNA license, they can get any trade that they want that we offer, they are eligible for. And then that just gets them up to a better pay raise. Our goal is at 6 months, they should be making $20 or more dollars an hour. So that's a requirement to graduate.
And how many people did you graduate last year?
So we graduated, I don't know the numbers. I know even this year we already graduated 23. And then last year, probably 100 and something. I'm not sure the number.
Sweet. So their Cross Purpose is taking people, lifting them up, pretty much financing their little mini education, and then helping them find work or getting to a point where they have it. And for the graduates to graduate, they got to have a job making that amount of money, which is, really a great thing. We might do a trip to see Cross Purpose, and then maybe some other people associated with Cross Purpose that are doing some really good stuff in Denver.
And also it has to be in their career track. So they can't just get a job making that amount of money. It has to be still in their career track.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to get generator text for Power Plus from Cross Purpose, but so far I haven't been able to. But that it would be a nice thing because Veronica does generators for, she's been the manager of Walmart and big companies like that. And it'd be really cool if we, at some point, we can get some people through Cross Purpose to become generator techs. It's a long journey and it's a lot of technical skills, but it'd be just really cool to see somebody get to that point because we need them, right? Right, Veronica? They're really electricians and mechanics, are kind of a combo. So anyway, all right. Now, next week is Super Bowl Sunday, and there's enough football fans that we're gonna start late. Like I said, we would. We'll start at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. We'll keep it to 90 minutes, and hopefully the game will be over by then, or at least somebody hopefully will be ahead enough where you'd pay attention in class. And so the game's at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, and we're starting 4 hours later, so should be done, right? We did last year, I'm a Rams fan, and I think I started class at 7, and the game was tied when I started class. So I didn't get to see the end of the game, and it was really pretty exciting. So my bad. That's what I get for being a Ram fan, right? Okay, Veronica, anything else?
Great class.
Okay, check Kiva out for us and find me something better, and let's get that prize.
Thanks, everyone.